Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and XRP is coming on up a little bit. It's sitting here right around $3. I wanted to point out a few things after when we have these market pullbacks. I always try to get everybody to focus on the big picture. September and October could be extremely epic, folks. The XRP ETFs most likely are going to start going live in the September-October area. The Clarity Act is supposed to pass. Then you have full market legislation for crypto. Then the Fed's supposed to decrease rates starting in September. And then I believe here imminently you could see Donald Trump in the Ukraine war, which I think will also spur on not just crypto, but all markets. So I keep reiterating it. What you need to focus on is what I'm focusing on. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll tell you what I'm doing, what I've been doing is positioning my digital assets in institutional custody, making sure that they're safe and I can sleep at night. And I've done it in two places. One of them's Caleb and Brown. These guys have, you get an actual broker you can speak to, and then when the time comes, you've got the liquidity necessary to get out. So Caleb and Brown is, you can go and open an account by going to xrpwealth589.com. I created that domain just to forward you to my page here on Caleb and Brown. Okay, look at this. I predicted this a long time ago. All we've seen so far in the crypto market with all these different indexes, most of them have had Bitcoin allocation at like 75%. As legislation comes in and the utility begins to come in and real world asset tokenization, I think you're already seeing it here. This is from CoinDesk. You're going to see a decrease in the allocation to Bitcoin. And I believe that over time, there will be a larger allocation to the digital assets with real world utility, the ones that they're creating stable coins and tokenizing the world on. XRP at the top of that list. That's an XRP 18%. It will pass Ethereum, then it will pass Bitcoin. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. Here's a stat. 75% of global fund managers have zero crypto allocation in their portfolios, while 9% hold any digital assets, according to B of A's latest survey. That's how big the wall of money is that's coming, folks. Keep your eye on the ball. Here's another great clip from Paul Barron yesterday in his show he did.
Even bigger partnerships now, or do you feel like Ripple has already set the chess pieces in place? How far do you think they are in their development?
Yeah, I think that we've already seen some pretty big partnerships. Ripple as a company is alleged to have around about 300 financial institutions that they've been public about. There's the notion that there's around about 1,700 NDAs out there.
Yeah.
Now, those partnerships may come to fruition. And you've got to think, again, if XRP is successful, and XRP to Ripple is really its secret sauce. It's really what this innovation is all about. Ripple offer a number of services. The secret sauce and the revolution here, or the evolution, is XRP.
Yeah.
I think if XRP is going to be successful and is going to become that world reserve bridge asset, all of these big financial institutions are going to have to get on board. Now they've got the legal clarity to do so. And I wouldn't be surprised within those 1,700 NDAs if you don't already have many of them. They just haven't been able to publicly come out and say it. So the world is going to have to embrace this technology. I think XRP is in that prime position, which means that institutions are going to have to adopt it.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at the institutional adoption at the scale in which it could happen and the speed, if you look at what the Trump's administration has been able to do in basically 8 months and apply that to next generation finance, especially around the Fed decision next month, because I think this is going to be the catalyst. Besson has already been pushing for 1.5 points and believes that this should be a much more aggressive cut. Everybody now starting to say, I think Polymarket on 50 basis points went from a 2% to almost 12% in a matter of a week. Wow. So, and this is very early, but the point being is, if this Fed rate cut really does get an assessment and an adjustment, and we've seen it, central banks have been cutting for a while in the UK. Yep. You've seen it around the world.
Okay, now here the Winklevoss brothers are filing to take Gemini public.
Gemini's space station filing for its IPO and joining a wave of digital asset firms seeking to tap into the public markets. The company, founded back in 2014 by billionaire twins Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, it plans to list on the NASDAQ right here under the ticker symbol GEMI. Terms of that offering were not disclosed in a filing that was made public on Friday. The company supports more than 70 cryptocurrencies and operations in more than 60 countries. It also supports stablecoins and issues the Gemini dollar stablecoin. Now, in the 6 months ended June 30th, Gemini reported a net loss of about $280 million on total revenue of about $69 million. That compares with a net loss of $41 million on revenue of $74 million a year ago.
Because, guys.
Oh, are you jealous?
Yeah.
Jealous.
I mean, they get screwed out of Facebook, and it's like that doesn't even.
The next thing will come along.
And they're still 6'5", and they look like that. And now they're both billionaires.
They were billionaires long before this.
Yes.
I know.
Okay, now this is the modern investor. This guy knows what's going on.
The weird part is, investing in the stock market's not that difficult. It's literally like, you can look through articles, find out about a company, what they're doing, how much they're making, who runs, the board of the company, what their thing is. You don't have to look all the time. For crypto, it's kind of the same. And then even crazier, you get news about it every single day. There's an abundant amount of news. Do you remember, it was sometime last year. Was it last year? It wasn't that long ago. When XRP was like under $1, I think it was like 70 or 80 cents. And nobody was touching it. Now we're having all this news. XRP might be going to $15 soon because the lawsuit's over. And, XRP ETFs. People only care when the price goes up and they realize that they could have bought before. We saw Bitcoin at $3,000. We saw Bitcoin at $9,000. We saw Bitcoin at $15,000. We saw Bitcoin at $20,000. Remember, a lot of the news was like there's no one's really buying. The ETFs launched. We had some people buying, and then that also kind of tapered off. A lot of normal people aren't buying Ether. They're not really paying attention to anything else in the market. And when, in the future, we have a $36 XRP, when Bitcoin's at $774,000, that a lot of people are going to resent it and be angry that they don't have any. They didn't buy any. Yeah, it's a very interesting market to be in. It not only shows literal market dynamics, but it shows human dynamics when it comes to logic or things around them. Remember, I said this was the beginning of the year, and I said you just heard that the United States of America is going to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, etc. You just heard that 13 states are going to adopt a Bitcoin standard. You just heard that 200 companies are now accumulating massive amounts of Bitcoin. You just heard.
He's right, folks. Now, this is what's about to happen, folks. They're talking about it here. Wall Street's coming in. The adults are coming in. And like I said earlier in the video, it's not going to be just a focus on Bitcoin. That the Bitcoin allocation is going to go down as the utility allocation goes up. The other thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a focus on utility, supply of these digital assets. See, they sell you on this idea that Bitcoin has a limited supply, and they even lie to you and tell you it's the only asset with limited supply. Not only is it not the only digital asset with limited supply, but the XRP has a limited supply and is also deflationary, where they burn some of the XRP on every transaction. So it's deflationary. It's better than Bitcoin from a scarcity standpoint. But you're also going to start to hear a lot about indexing, and this is how these financial advisors, I'm not a financial advisor, but I was one. I'm not one now. You're going to see the indexing discussion as these financial advisors come in. They're going to be allocating across these things. It's not going to be all in one, like especially not Bitcoin. These are the adults talking, so any of you Bitcoin children out there, you may not like to hear this.
And people say, well, then I can toss away everything and I can just focus on one asset, my asset of choice, whether it's Bitcoin or Ether or Solana or XRP or some other name. And I'm just going to look for upside and just let that ride and get rich, basically. We're getting to a stage where that dynamic is changing a lot. The volatility of most big crypto assets is declining quite a bit. We're getting to the point where more people have portfolios in place. So again, we're really at the cusp. And then there's availability, right? And then there's standard benchmarks. So there are a lot of changes happening just in 2025 and just in the current quarter that's going to help those traditional indexing practices become easier to do, make more sense, and be more widely adopted. So correlation, as we mentioned before, not that great. I think you want to be able to Dave's point, take a digestible number of assets where you can really kind of have an understanding of broadly what those pieces of software are trying to do. Look at their market capitalization weight. Trust that that correctly reflects the amount of demand and supply and adoption of each of those names. And that creates a really good benchmark for this time. So 10 years from now, 5 tokens might be an insufficient breadth. But for now, where many people still benchmark the entire asset class with Bitcoin, it's the right step forward to grab a handful and then market cap weight that and let that be your guide. One other point, as far as timing, Ethereum is still down on the year, but was up 77% in the second quarter. And that started, by some news stories as a big short squeeze in the hedge fund community. And then, ETF inflows started to happen. And then there's more talk about whether staking yields will be added, to certain products. It's a lot to keep track of. I think timing in crypto is just as difficult and treacherous as picking individual names. The liquidity flows can move very, very, very quickly. And even, a better reason to sort of buy the index and sit on the asset class and let things progress in their natural state at the top level.
Oh yeah, that's some adult language. Look at this big month for Ripple's XRP ledger. There's real world asset value surged about 32%, and DeFi TVL jumped 19% amid this momentum. Open Eden's proud to be the #1 on the XRPL Real World Asset League table for highest growth in the past 30 days. Institutional grade real world asset tokenization's on the rise. We're leading the charge. Now we're going to do something interesting in DAIXRP.com, which is the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click the join button below any of these videos, or you can hit subscribe through X. So what we're going to talk about is what am I going to do with all that XRP? This is the ultra wealthy XRP plan we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about the illusion of income. This is adult talk too, so you may not be interested if you like to play kiddie games. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.